Hello my beautiful friends and family. Hope everyone is having an awesome day. Please join me today to make my son's signature dish and care package, Dal Puri and Paneer Butter Masala. We're going to start off by boiling the dal for the Dal Puri. My pot is on medium heat. I'm adding some cooking oil, coriander powder, cumin powder, turmeric powder, fresh garlic, some green chili. Stir it up to flavor up the oil. And we're gonna add the dal, same as yellow split peas, salt. Give it a quick stir and add some water. I like to use the warm water because I feel it gets the pot boiling faster. I'm gonna cover it and let it boil medium to high heat for about 40 minutes or until the peas gets tender. Meantime the dal is boiling, we're going to knead the dough for the dal puri. I have some all-purpose flour. I'm adding some salt, sugar, baking powder, and a pinch of baking soda. I'm also adding 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. This will help to keep the dough soft. Give it a quick mix to incorporate the ingredients. And guys, all the ingredients with the measurements will be listed in the description box. I'm adding some warm water. You want to pour the water in gradually to form a soft dough. I will go in with my hands to knead. You can also use a mixer. And guys, I can feel the texture of the dough as it's forming. It's a little stiff and I still have some of the dry ingredients in the bottom of the bowl. So I will add a little bit more of water. You don't want to start off with a stiff dough. It should be more of a soft texture. And as you knead it, it will form into a stiffer dough. The more time these dough can rest, is better. I'll be honest, some days when I'm making dal puri and I have the time, I will knead the dough about 2 hours ahead before I start cooking. I'm going to put a damp paper towel on top. You can also use a damp clean cloth. And we're going to cover the bowl and let it rest for at least 45 minutes or longer if we have the time. In about 35 minutes, we can check on the dal. You can test it by pressing the peas with your fingers, and if you can mash it easily, then it's ready. This one is still a little bit too hard to mash, so I'll cover it back and let it cook for another 10 to 15 minutes. At this point, you want to pay some close attention to the dal. You don't want to overcook it. You want the consistency to be where you can strain it and put it in a food processor or grinder. I can easily mash this with my fingers. Now I'm going to take it off the heat and strain it. I drained the dal and it came up perfect for processing in the food processor. And guys, if you don't have a food processor, you can use any kind of utensil or grinder you have in the kitchen that will mash the dal up so you can stuff it in a dough and roll it out. I'm going to stop the food processor and scrape around the corners and process it one more time. Try to grind all the peas to the smallest you can get it. You don't want to have whole peas or too large pieces, because when you stuff the dough and roll it out, and if the pieces are too big, they will create holes in the dough. And this should be good here. I'm going to pour it out and process the rest of it. And guys, this is the perfect consistency you want it after processing. Not too soft and not too coarse. Now we're going to roast some cumin seed and grind it to flavor up the dal. I like to do this at the time I'm making the dal puri. I feel like it brings out the aroma more, but I'm sure you can also use the already ground cumin if you have in your kitchen. If you're going to roast the cumin seed, set your stove on low heat and let it slowly roast. And once it achieves that golden to light brown color, take it off the heat. You don't want it to get too dark or burn because the taste will be bitter. I pour it on top a piece of parchment paper and I'm grinding it with the rolling pin. And it doesn't have to grind to the finest. You want to crush it to where you can get that warm, earthly aroma out. A rolling pin is such a powerful utensil in the kitchen. Guys, you can even use this to grind the dal. Fold the parchment paper, pick it up and make like a little funnel and pour the ground cumin in the dal. I'm adding a little bit more of salt and some ground black pepper. Give it a good mix. You want the ground cumin to blend well with the dal. And we're going to set it aside and work on the dough. It's been about 45 minutes. I'm going to remove the dough from the bowl. It's feeling very smooth and nice. I'm going to cut it into 2 pieces and roll it out kind of like a log. If you can, try to take the palm of both hands and start rolling at the center and roll toward both ends. And I'm going to cut into smaller pieces, and the size depends on what size you prefer or the size of your tava or skillet. I'm going to flatten them out a little bit with my hands, then I'm going to cover them back with a damp paper towel and I'm going to let them rest a second time. Now let's get this paneer butter masala going. I'm cutting up the paneer into 1/2-inch size cubes. You can cut into whatever size you desire. And for my beautiful people who are watching, just in case you've never heard of paneer, it's a kind of cheese that doesn't melt. It's basically milk curdled with some type of acid like lime, lemon or vinegar. In another video, I will make some paneer and show you my version. So if you want to see it, please hit that subscribe button. I'll stop everything, give you a moment to hit that subscribe button, and then we'll resume. Thank you. I'll pour some warm water and add some salt. This should freshen up the cheese, and I'll set it aside and start cutting up the vegetables. I'm cutting up the tomatoes, and it may seem like a lot of tomatoes and a lot of everything. Indeed, it's a lot. I'm making a care package with this food for my son, and he's a big eater. Also, I haven't seen him in over a year since COVID started, and I miss him. And some red onions, but if you don't have red onions, the yellow will do just fine. And some fresh cilantro. Gosh, I love the smell of fresh cilantro. It has such a beautiful aroma. Now let's get this pot going. I have my stove on medium to high heat. I'm adding some ghee to melt, and then the red onions. Stir the onions and saute it until it gets translucent. Then I'm gonna add some dry whole red chili and some raw cashews. Next, we're gonna add the tomatoes and some salt. And you want to cook this until the tomatoes is mushy. It's good here, the tomatoes are looking nice and mushy. I'll take it off the heat and let it cool down. If you want it to cool down faster, stick it in the refrigerator for a few minutes. Now we're gonna blend the mixture into a paste. I have to do it 2 times because I have a lot of mixture, so I'll transfer this into a bowl and then I'll blend the rest of it. Now over to the stove again. I'm using the same pan, but I washed it. I have my stove on medium heat. Again, I'm adding some ghee to melt. Next, I will add some Kashmiri chili powder and some garam masala. Next, I'm gonna go in with the paste we made. It's already looking so creamy and pleasantly nutty. The cashews are a great enhancement to this paste and this gravy. I love to cook with cashews. Always have them in my kitchen. I'm adding some kasuri methi leaves. This is the dry leaves of the fenugreek plant. This will add a bitter but distinct and fascinating taste. Just crush it up with your hands. And some fresh cilantro. My son loves Dal Puri and he loves Paneer Butter Masala. And one day he says to me, "Mom, can we combine them and find out what it will taste like?" And we both fell in love with it. Next, I'm gonna add some salt, give it a quick stir, and I'm gonna cover it and let it cook for about 10 minutes on low heat. In the Meantime that's cooking, we can get the cream ready. I'm using some unsweetened mava. It is also called koya. I'm cutting it up into smaller pieces to put in the blender. And guys, if you don't know what it is, it's basically milk in a solid form. It could be made with fresh milk, cottage cheese, or milk powder. And if you cannot get access to some, you can substitute with condensed milk. I'm adding some half and half to blend it. You can use fresh cream or whole milk. And I will do another video with this recipe also to show you how you guys can make it at home, especially for my friends and family who are still living in Guyana and may not have access to some. And going back to the stove, now we're gonna add the cream to the gravy. This will make it rich and creamy. And when you're making the cream for the gravy, try to get a thicker consistency, not too thin. And I'm adding some sugar because I use the unsweetened koya. This will add a subtle sweetness and balance out the chili. And now I'm going in with the good stuff, guys, the paneer. This is the kind of food you want to make for your family on special occasions, especially when you have some kind of vegetarian fasting going on. I have to be honest though, it does require some extra time to prepare, but guys, it will be worth it when it's done. Once you add the paneer, stir gently. You don't want these beautiful tender cheese cubes to break up. I'm gonna add some water. Give it a gentle stir, and I'll cover it and let it simmer slowly on low heat for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes is up and we got some rich, creamy, delicious paneer butter masala. I'm taking the heat off and I'm adding a small piece of butter. After all, the name is Paneer Butter Masala. I want to see some butter in there. And now let's finish up with this dal puri, guys. I'm running on empty right now. You want to make like a little pocket with the pieces of dough and stuff them with about 1.5 spoons of the grind dal. And you want to seal it by grabbing one end and start pinching both sides together, and keep doing it until you reach the other end, making sure you're properly sealing it as you go. And then when you get to the other end, grab both ends and pull them back towards the center and twist it a little bit and apply some pressure, and that should seal it. And then you can flatten it with your hands. It will help to distribute the dal evenly in the dough. And I'm going to stuff some more of the dough and then I'll start the cooking. And guys, because I'm making a lot today, I don't want to stuff all of them and then start the cooking. I will do about 9 or 10. If you're making a lot, you don't want to stuff them and let them sit out for too long. Otherwise the dough will start to get moist and soft, and it will be more difficult to roll and the peas will come out more easily. I stuffed 9 of them. Let's start the cooking. I put the skillet on the stove, medium heat to warm whilst we're rolling the dough. I'm sprinkling some flour so it doesn't stick to the board or the rolling pin. And you want to roll it out to get it as thin as you can without bursting it. Honestly, I've seen different thickness of dal puri throughout my life, so don't stress too much about getting it too thin. Our skillet should be hot and ready for the roti, and because the roti is thin, I'll rub a little bit of oil on it so the roti doesn't stick to it. And guys, these roti don't take long to cook. As soon as you see some bubbles start to show up, you can flip it and rub some oil. By the time you finish rubbing the oil, the other side might be ready. So you just want to flip it again and rub some oil on the other side and flip it one more time. And guys, if your roti don't swell, don't worry about it. The important thing is that it tastes good. And as long as you keep the dal in there, it will taste good. And be very careful with the steam, it's very hot. Anytime you're cooking any kind of roti and it swells, you want to be extremely cautious. When it bursts, you can definitely get burned from the steam coming out. And if it swells but it didn't burst, be cautious also if you're touching it with your fingers, because you can easily poke it and you'll get burned. I'll finish up the rest of the roti in the same process. And because preparing the dal takes up the most time when I'm making dal puri, I usually make extra and freeze it. You can store it for up to a month or even longer. And guys, you can also freeze leftover dal puri for about a month or so. Just thaw it out and heat it up, and it will retain its flavor and taste. And I got a nice little bag here of grind dal for the next time I feel like eating dal puri. And check it out, we got some beautiful dal puri and some yummy paneer butter masala. I made this for my son, but I'm gonna have to cheat and eat some. The dal puri came out very soft and the dal stayed inside. That's just what we wanted. And the paneer butter masala, oh my gosh, it looks like to die for. Wow, guys, please try this recipe and kindly subscribe to my channel if you didn't yet. Stay safe. Love you guys.